Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about urban legends. Or urban legend, actually. On Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It is your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Pendleton University. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the goriest of details of 1998's urban legend in the hopes that a co-ed's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there is only one person that I trust to keep that little vehicular manslaughter we had in our past just between us. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
Yeah, you're right. It should be urban legends.
It's multiple.
They talk about almost nothing but urban legends in this.
Right. There's no singular urban legend that they're digging into more than the other. There's plenty of them to go around, and yet it is absolutely singular, which makes me wonder why in the sequels they never just made it an S, turned it into a $sign.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. Now, I don't want to scare you, Gina, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. Now, you may know him as a horror fiction podcaster for the last 10 years plus, working on everything from audio dramas to discussion panels. And of course, he is the creator of the Creepy Podcast, an anthology podcast dedicated to creepypastas and urban legends. That's right. The one, the only, John Grilz. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing great. To be fair, we only cover urban legend. On our podcast. Just one.
You've chosen a specific one, and you're dedicated to it.
We did one. And that's it. Just black-eyed kids. That's all we can talk about. Really pigeonholed myself for some reason.
It seems like something you could, I don't know, bend the rules on after the fact. Just like we were like, hey, we're going to do multi-volume shows of every movie we covered. And then after we covered Jason X and we went into volume 7, we're like, we're never doing this again.
when our brains started leaking out of our ears.
I had that same situation with the Children of the Corn series.
Oh,
we hit the fourth one, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't.
You hit that wall.
It was too much.
Yeah. It is entirely understandable. And listen, if there wasn't a really righteous wheelchair death in part 2, we'd never consider covering the franchise here on Kill by Kill. But that's in the future. We don't have to worry about that yet. Because today we're covering 1998's Urban Legend, a movie that is not exactly legend, but also not reviled. It is a movie that, not to quote the bard, Gina Radcliffe, it's fine, trademark.
Yes.
It's okayish at best. There are moments of it. It's photographed really well. I think there's things to really like about it. But in comparison to what other people really love of 90s slashers, and one we would wholeheartedly, like, I don't really think there's a truly bad Scream movie. And well, neither of us are particular huge fans of I Know What You Did Last Summer, which our listenership has been telling us how wrong we are in the chat, G. Wow.
Well, we knew that was coming.
We knew that coming because it just, you find it at the right time. It works for you. That's your genuine emotional reaction to art. It shouldn't change what I say about it. You should love it, right? And I get that. Now, if someone were to come to me and say, you know what my favorite slasher franchise, and especially the first one is, Urban Legend, I would have to go, is this a bit? And when are you letting me in on the bit?
Yeah, I would be looking for, a camera somewhere, an Ashton Kutcher hiding behind the bushes,
a decomposing Alan Funt propped in a director's chair, being puppeted into a laughing motion.
I think
that's an old-ass reference.
At least a follow-up question as to what is your second? Because
right.
Maybe they don't have a second. And this is just the only series they've ever watched.
Have you seen any other movies?
Well, I would also mention that in my recollection, not that I've rewatched these films, but I happen to remember liking the sequels a little bit more than liking the original. So I don't know if that will play out, and I don't know when I will find out. But if we keep doing this show, we're probably going to run into it, Gina. We just don't have any other choice.
Eventually, yeah, when we're like a decrepit, 74 and 73 years old.
Yeah.
And
right.
finally
reach the age people have been lobbying at us for the last 9 years.
Urban Legend 3, Bloody Mary pops up on the Patreon request. And we're like, sure.
John, when was the first time you watched and you remember watching Urban Legend?
I think I have to imagine that the first time I watched this, because I got into horror so much later than a lot of people who watched The Exorcist when they were like 6, like my wife. I have to imagine it was probably a Blockbuster rental back when you had the Blockbuster Movie Pass and you could check out 2 movies at a time.
Oh, wow.
And I remember watching it and kind of like, a lot of slasher movies, I was like, oh, I kind of like the hook. I like the idea of the urban legend. I liked a lot of the kills. And because I was still pretty new to horror, I wasn't really paying attention to the plot or the acting or any plot holes or anything like that. And so just sitting down watching it, I remember enjoying it.
I think this is an enjoyable sipping sort of whiskey movie.
Sipping in the way that you don't want to drink bottom shelf whiskey quickly.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to pound it.
No.
You're there to like, well, I don't have a mixer, but I would still like a drink.
Yes.
That makes sense. But it's also not Bueno Amigo tequila. The tequila that is no bueno. I'll tell you that right now. We were at one, you came into that hotel and you got all your meals for free and all your drinks for free. Mm-hmm. And someone came up to the swim up bar. And I think we were there for exactly 2 hours at this point. And the person was like, drinks for everyone, which is something you say when you're paying for it, not when you're not. And so they poured a bunch of shots and I remember drinking it and my intestines going, I'd like to feel sunshine too. And you're like, no. This is a public fucking pool. Other people are here. You need to maintain. And so I kept it down, but I made a pledge from that moment on. No bueno, amigo. No bueno. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Urban Legend. Gina, what was the first time you watched this movie?
Well, I sort of feel like I sound like a broken record when talking about movies from this period.
Sure.
And that post Scream, I didn't see a lot of horror movies in the theater for a while. Initially because I had just had a child and wasn't going out much anyway, but also because I felt that they were starting to lapse a bit in quality.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So this one I was a bit late on. I probably waited till it came on cable, and yeah, it's fine. The few that I remember not liking much, in revisiting for the show, I ended up liking a lot more, like Valentine, for instance.
Right. Yeah.
Which I enjoyed a lot more in covering it for this.
Yeah.
And this one, I came away, the same way I recall feeling the first time, like, yeah, all right.
That's a movie.
I didn't find it particularly scary. As I said to you in the chat, I think the scariest scene is Tosh putting a space between the end of a sentence and a period when she types in the chat.
Mm-hmm. That's hard to take.
That's jarring. Like my hands were shaking a little bit during that scene.
What does this mean for me? What does this mean for her? What does this mean for society? It's understandable. Whereas I would see anything in a movie theater. Of course, I was unencumbered by either a loved one, a partner in life, or responsibilities. I was still working at Universal Studios. If it was anything that was promising anything akin to Scream, I was like, well, listen, I love horror movies. This is something I have to support. And then I watched it and I'm like, hey, is this movie great? No, it's practically lab grown. And I don't really mean that as a slight. It's simply a reality. It would be insane for us to cast aspersions on a film designed to cash in on a 90s slasher craze when, at the very least, the first 2 seasons of the show were dedicated to the franchises born in the aftermath of John Carpenter's Halloween. Obviously, Friday the 13th gives everyone the idea that anyone with a camera can just like spit out a slasher and rake in money. And then A Nightmare on Elm Street is kind of proof that you could actually do something interesting with the formula if you decided to do that. But when you reach the 90s and the revival, I think it's important to note that Kevin Williamson's twist on the formula with Scream was to take the characters and situations seriously and not just items on a checklist to tick off. And in addition to that, he's taking the horror tropes unseriously until they present themselves in a way that actually makes sense. And what helps with that is Wes Craven is able to not only capture this, but enhance it with a deft lensing and intricate camera blocking that involves you and allowing the actors to find the humanity inside the both comedy and horror elements. And as we discussed at length in series 3, when we covered the Scream movie franchise, there's a multitude of miracles that not only make the first film, but the franchise after that work as well as it does. But the majority of Scream's choices are very intentional with an eye towards bringing scares back to the slasher formula. Well, what happens after that? We've mentioned I Know What You Did Last Summer. And at least our listenership has told us on multiple responses, they believe that I Know What You Did Last Summer is the same, if not better than Scream. Now, whether or not I agree with that, I do not. Well, listen, what is your favorite Bond movie, John?
Does it have to be pre-Daniel Craig?
It doesn't have to be anything. It has to be what it is.
I mean, I like Skyfall
I have a certain belief about this. So what is it?
It's Skyfall.
It is Skyfall.
Yeah.
Skyfall makes sense on a creative basis. Whereas for me, my favorite Bond movie is For Your Eyes Only. Is For Your Eyes Only better than Skyfall? Absolutely fucking not. There's no universe in which it is better than Skyfall. But For Your Eyes Only was the first Bond movie I ever saw. It's also one of the few Bond movies in which he reacts like a guy who knows how to kill people. And when they kill people he likes, is like, fuck you. I'm going to use this skill to fuck you up. I'm also going to act like a genuine spy and do spy shit. And for me, while For Your Eyes Only is marginally better than Moonraker, the film that comes in front of it, it works for a multitude of levels. And I think I'm not saying it's exactly 1-to-1, but I believe if you resonate with I Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't really doubt that you love that movie. That's just would be insane to say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I firmly believe that every horror movie has the potential to be someone's favorite.
Yes.
And I'm totally fine with that. It's more the judging one against the other where it's like, this is as good or better than that. Like, well, all right, let's kind of pump the brakes on that one a little bit.
But I think in the internet age, where we don't allow shades of gray,
true,
it's either the best thing that has ever been or the worst disappointment that has ever existed and should be banned according to law. Those shades of gray people don't like them as much. And when you firmly believe and have an emotional connection to something, you react. You react with defense. I defend this thing that I love, and you should. It's fine. I don't take it as a personal slight. It just is something that is, and it's human nature, and we have to be okay with that. But the other thing we have to understand in anticipation of urban legend is, like Halloween, really condensing disparate things into a singular source code. And then after that, Friday the 13th showing this is profitable, even if you just add one element, like a hatchet to the face. That was enough for it to be the number 5 highest grossing film in 1980. And so when Scream comes out, and I know comes slightly after that and does even better, it signals every studio in town that, oh my God, we have to have at least one of these fucking things because this is working. So keep in mind, I know hit screens like 9 months after Scream. It becomes a bona fide smash. And then Scream 2 comes out a mere 3 months after that and does equally as well as the original Scream. There's no real drop off. It does slightly better. And the only thing that really holds it back is that it has a bit more horror competition. So at least with I Know, I can say it's making its own choices because Williamson is the writer and he's been proven to know that audiences want what he has when it comes to horror in that moment. But post I Know and Scream 2, that's when you get everyone sort of smelling muddy in the water. And like a great white that we all know and love named Bruce, sharks roll their eyes back and just start taking bites of anything that smells like a meal. And that's how you end up with 1988's 1988. There's 9s and there's 8s involved. There might only be 1 8. Urban Legend, which I think gets back to a core 80s thing, which is a slasher movie is a series of choices. Like you're going to a dim sum menu and deciding what to eat for dinner or lunch that day. So first up, that you need to check off that list, especially in our late 90s slashers, is you need a cast. So you find yourself the prettiest whites that you can get for a price. And this movie is like a perfect fucking example of this. It's not even trying like Scream 2 to slightly diversify.
I mean, the best you could say is that they give Joshua Jackson a really unflattering bleach job.
That's right. You got it. He's one of the two, the WB draftees, him and Rosenbaum. And then you have the daughter from Sybil, Alicia Witt. You have Bunny Lebowski in Tara Reid. You've got 2 horror icon cameos and Robert Englund and Brad Dourif. And 1, hey, you remember that kid from Halloween 4? She's a hot goth now. And Danielle Harris. And one of Broadway's original Dream Girls. This is a common thing here. All you need is one of those things. You just check them off the list, and now you got it. And you might be saying to yourself at home, but Patrick, I've watched this movie. I've at least browsed the IMDb. That's not the only cast members in this. And I'm here to tell you, are you sure? Are you sure they're not?
I mean, just ignore the stench. It's in the movie's defense, it was this happened before there was awareness of a stench.
Yes. Now, one of these is just out and out tragedy in my estimation. Okay, because this movie also contains the Noxzema girl herself, who. There was points of this that I knew and did not know previous to doing research. Here's one I didn't know. Did you know that she met and dated Brett? Did my dick do that? Ratner, starting at age 15.
I did not.
That's a 1-5, baby. They dated on and off for 13 years after that. So this is up to 28. Whoa, wow. So when you hear the other parts of this, you're like, okay, there's a lot of shit that needs to be unpacked going on here. First and foremost, that she pleaded no contest to vehicular manslaughter in 2001. She pleaded no contest. She's like, this happened. I'm going to take the punishment for this. So there's that. And what I did not know post that was that one of her few roles in even the last decade, was in 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Do you know who she played in that movie?
I don't.
One of the hippies?
No, she was last seen on screen as the butt of Brad Pitt's soon-to-be harpooned wife in that film.
What? She was a stunt butt?
I mean, she's heard. She says the lines, but you don't see her. You see her butt, and you see Brad Pitt fingering a harpoon gun. Like, if I shoot her, no one will know. So that's one person, right? There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of things out of a person's control. There's a legitimate raging asshole in her past that God knows what sort of emotional damage they did to her. But it's nothing compared to the guy who claimed he doesn't even remember being in this film. He also claims to not remember the cult he created around his very shitty butt rock band, and who has been credibly accused of sexual misconduct by at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 women dating back to 2006, some of which were underage when the incidents occurred. His latest 4-quadrant motion picture debuts in just 1 month from when this episode lands in people's podcast feeds. I don't remember him being in this movie, so why should anyone else? All right. What's the other things on our checklist here? It's in the 80s, there was an emphasis on sort of creating a horror icon. What was different from Halloween to Friday the 13th to Nightmare on Elm Street to Chucky was the icon themselves, the center of that slasher franchise. Post-Scream and The Fisherman, oh, I know what you did last summer. Now we get to the point where we're using Drew Struzan's poster art for The Thing, person inside a snowsuit, as who our horror icon is.
This killer is not given a cool name like the Snowman or Overcoat or anything like
the
that.
The Legend. There's
a certain laziness that's happening at this point where it's just like, well, just, throw something that'll hide that'll keep the audience from being able to tell if they're male or female over them, and then we'll call it a day.
Yes.
Okay, so this might be way too obvious to everyone else, but that is literally the first time I realized that there's no name for the killer.
No.
That's so bizarre.
They're not named after the original incident. They are not named after what occurs in this movie. As close as it even comes is even in the third movie, they're like, we're going to change this entirely. We're going to make it Bloody Mary, which is something they evoke in the film. But I would not call it even central to any moment beyond that momentary incident. I said moment too many times.
Well, to be fair, there is a reason why there are so many winter parkas in what appears to be autumn in in Maine or wherever they are.
New England somewhere.
And thank you to Amazon for me when I paused in the swimming pool scene when there's a swimmer wearing a parka in fall for no reason.
Right, yeah. Walks into a hot, steamy room. Like, I'm not taking this off until I hit the pool.
Almost as if whoever's in charge of doing the trivia for Amazon is like, okay, at this point, people have to be wondering why in the hell are there so many parkas, and yet there's still at least one to come, like one red herring parka to come. And it's because this was supposed to be set in the winter in the original screenplay. And everything about it, they were going to film it. It was going to be winter. It was going to be snow. And when it finally came down when they were going to film it, it was too warm.
Yeah.
So instead of creating fake snow, they just kept it exactly as is and didn't see any issue with so many people having hooded winter coats.
I think did not see any issue. You could put it on the movie poster and it would make sense to people who have seen the film. There's a laissez-faire attitude here. One of which I think Jamie Blank's much better, in my opinion, follow-up Valentine course corrects, right? There's a definitive reason behind that look, but also even Valentine falls in line with a weird after effect of Scream, which is instead of focusing on a horror icon necessarily, posts this, every studio in Hollywood, when something's successful, they tend to learn the wrong lesson. And because this comes post-Scream success, the prevailing theory behind 90s slasher movies is, in Scream, the motive was horror movies make people want to kill. But in our film, the motive is blank. And I know what you did last summer. The motive is revenge based on vehicular mishaps. And so it's just like it becomes fundamental to what 90s slashers become. Even Valentine has the sort of terror train-esque, you fucked me over earlier in life, and now on Valentine's Day, I'm going to get my revenge. It's not as important necessarily, but here they go through all these hoops to establish urban legends. And then at the end of the day, it's kind of like, why is this any different than prom night? No one's worried about giving names to that unfortunate childhood incident there. Why are we going through all these fucking hoops when all I want to do is come to the movies and see a person in a snowsuit kill a bunch of people?
Yeah, you really have to take with a huge grain of salt that all of these young college students are absolutely obsessed with urban legends. Just like, you know, they want to talk about nothing else. Their favorite class is about it. Everybody just has encyclopedic knowledge of you know, reference points for all of this stuff. And it's like, I'm trying to think back to how many urban legends I could tell right off the top of my head when I was, you know, in my college age. And I'm like, I don't know, Pop Rocks. You know, right. That was I tended to confuse them with like campfire stories, and which they all kind of glom together anyway.
Yeah.
But like it's sort of treated as the rite of passage that young adults go through when they go through their urban legend phase.
You're right.
Well, to be fair, the movie seems to imply that Michael Rosenbaum's character has taken that class several times.
Yes.
Because he does say Wexler talks about this every semester in his class, which made me wonder, has he taken this class more than once, or did the person who wrote this movie not know how college works?
A little from column A, a little from column B. It is implied that he's a bit of a Tommy boy, where he's on the verge of graduating after 8 years, which I can believe because, oh my God, in the history of what is the fucking deal with this guy characters in slasher movies that we've covered, Gina, he is up there. I'm not saying he's taking the cake, but he is taking a slice of the cake, a wide collared slice of the cake, Gina.
Yeah. There's a lot of cake. There's a lot of cake hoarding in this.
Oh,
like if you watched PCU starring Jeremy Piven and you thought that the frat wasn't over the top enough and the frat characters weren't over the top enough, watch Michael Rosenbaum's performance in Urban Legend.
It is singular. And I think that's what was put on the page and what he was tasked with doing. And he's absolutely trying to accomplish that. He's not doing anything that the script in the producers and the director aren't asking him to do. So I'm not putting this at his feet. But holy fuck, it's a lot of miscalibration. There's not much to the character beyond him being annoying, to the point where you're wondering, what does Tara Reid get out of this? Other than unfulfilling sex, she's so obsessed with making fulfilling that she's made it her personality.
And why are so many people at this college okay with animal cruelty being witnessed constantly, between wanting to pierce a dog's nose and feeding it a beer bong?
Right, to the point where the dog cheering. Brings the bong to the party. Okay, we'll get there. I have to finish some points up first. And I think this is apt, John, sort of kismet after, wandering in and out of having you on the list of being on the shows. We've tried to do this now for, I think, 6 years.
Probably, yeah.
But it's not like you don't have other podcasts to do. So there's that as well. But
I say busy, it's fine.
you are someone who I think can honestly answer the question of the importance of urban legends, which I don't think were that fucking big of a deal in the late 90s and have since become this thing that people are like, you know what? I'm invested in this. I want to find all the variations to it. I want to see how far it goes, when it started, and people are into that sort of thing. And I think it shows in the movie. When it comes to urban legends, I don't think the film is breaking a lot of ground. The cold open sequence story alone had been used in at least 2 other movies by my informal poll, that poll being movies we've covered on this show. Because Nightmares in 1983 and Body Bags in 1992 also have there's a person in the backseat of your car sequences. So how did urban legend meet the moment to sweep up nearly $75 million at the box office? And, you know, sure, it's got a hot, mostly known teen TV cast, but I think it is maybe the film's only truly bleeding edge moment is that this is the first film to truly involve the internet.
Yeah. And
a slasher movie. Let me preface it. First slasher movie to truly involve the internet.
You know, I think there is a little bit of kismet involved in the creation of this. Whoever actually came up with the idea of let's use urban legends within a slasher movie, they were aiming themselves in the right direction. Because kind of like, you know, Robert Englund's or Wexler's discusses about urban legends, it's how much these stories have pervaded society.
Right.
Everyone has heard of the baby killer, the calls coming from inside the house, the alligators in the sewers, the whatever, Bloody Mary, you know, right. Bloody Mary expanding into Candyman, even more so, and people's the curiosity with that. So that in itself, you already actually have a massive audience because there's almost inherent familiarity with urban legend. All you do is you play the trailer with some of the greatest hits, and you have people's curiosity because there's a familiarity to it.
Right. It's at least something you've heard of before.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It might not be a driving factor, but it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Maybe there's a lot more going on to this than just a couple people wandering around random hallways and someone dressed as a, you know, Drew Struzan's portrait of the Thing.
I mean, maybe they would have been a little disappointed, but, you know, it got them in the doors. Yeah, I mean, I love urban legends. I love creepypastas, kind of what urban legends have turned into. And, you know, we're in this really, I'm sure you've noticed it on social media, we're in this really weird age of rediscovery where, like, when I was growing up and people my age were growing up, like, we kind of had this weird constant time machine in our TVs because the stuff that was being replayed was Gilligan's Island and My Three Sons and stuff that was there's no, like, I couldn't imagine my kids watching something that, or even watching Saved by the Bell again. I would see, like, that's weird. Why are you watching that? Although they have watched, like, Malcolm in the Middle and stuff, and some of them hold up really well. But we kind of had that time machine, but we all had it at the same time. Right. There is so much content now that shared experiences are super, super rare. So now we get this kind of phenomenon on social media where especially like Gen Z, Gen Alpha are discovering things. Yeah. As if these things never existed before.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up because my child is an adult now, but your children are young teenagers, and I am curious. I guess creepypastas are about the equivalent to what we would consider an urban legend, because now I think, like, people on TikTok, look out, moms, people are throwing slices of cheese on cars in Target parking lots to now it's like warnings about sex traffickers and things like that. And I'm like, is that the new kind of urban legend now that, that these are, you have to look out for these signs that, you're being targeted for kidnapping and trafficking?
Well, yeah, you look at Momo. Right. You look at like the quote unquote the blue whale ritual, these ideas that someone got scared of it sometime. It used to be you got scared of it and it turned into a word of mouth rumor. But now someone gets scared of it and they post it online and it turns into fact for people. And I do appreciate that there is at least some level of people being like, where did this come from? You know, I'm not just going to look at this weird picture of what looks like part bird, part woman, part, you know, Shelley Duvall and say, oh, this is an evil thing that's going to kill my kids. It's like, oh, it's a piece of art by a Japanese artist that one of the Kardashians got scared of. Okay. Like, that's cool. I appreciate that. But I'm more worried about the more common chances of people just believing it's all real all the time.
Yeah, then you run into a thing like, you know, unfortunately what happened with Slender Man.
Absolutely, yes. A horrible tragedy. And, you know, and fortunately, we don't see more of that, at least not widely publicized and in the news and documentaries, et cetera. But it's out there and it's still pervasive in its own way. It's just not that weird hushed rumor, word of mouth. You know, I saw Faces of Death because my brother's brother or my best friend's brother had a copy and we snuck it to school. You know, there isn't that. There's just this constant access to information and interpretation and everything else, and people wanting to be new and scare people and be on the edge of something. And it can be fun, and also let's be careful.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming and perplexing and frightening.
Very well,
we live in slightly nihilistic times, and I can't say that the mid to late 90s was that different. I mean, sure, there's plenty of things we can all point back to as joyous and innocent and lovely and wonderful. Those things also exist now. But there was this prevailing undercurrent of, well, this isn't going to end well, and it will end sooner than I want. And sure, there's a component of that is just millennium Y2K panic. And those threats are more tangible and real now with climate change and a whole host of problems that we all face. That being said, the undercurrents are still there. So it manifests in Scream as these two wanted to kill and had bad childhoods and things weren't turning out how they wanted. And why not murder? And then I Know What You Did Last Summer, there's bad things happen to good and bad people, and I can't tell the difference, so I have to get my revenge. And it sets us a chain of events that seem simple on paper, and they make in the film appear to be very, very complicated for no particular reason. Here, they're really starting to strain credulity. Here is a very simple revenge tale, but it is couched with a need to, instead of choosing a different weapon from a knife to a machete, from a dream demon to a childhood toy, to now here's a series of very Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer style murders, only they're phrased, they're framed, they're in a pastiche of these urban legends. And for this to happen takes so much happenstance, so much lucky chance that it's harder to take seriously instead of easier. And sometimes that works to the movie's favor, and oftentimes it doesn't. But I feel that the effort here in particular shows more than it does in a lot of other examples.
I'm hung up more, no pun intended with these, but on why some of these characters were killed. Whereas, you know, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, there's a reason. Right?
Yeah, there's a very, the killer has a very targeted revenge plot. And yet at some point there's like, fuck it, I'm just going to kill everyone.
Yeah, but also hide it at the same time. Like, I'm not sure, like, it's amazing. If all of this is actually just to really mess with Natalie's mind, then I am impressed by this killer. because they put so much effort into no one knowing that really any of it happened or that any of it was connected, just to kill her in the end and make it look like Wexler did it. Like, why? So it seems so hard.
I think we've all had that home improvement craft project that seems simple at the beginning. And then in order to make that main goal happen, you take so many side quests that it just expands, not because you're that into the project in and of itself, but because you feel you have to. And by the end of it, you're like, maybe this was the goal all along. It does seem like she's always been the kid. Fuck it. It's Brenda. We all know it's Brenda. It's very simple. It's the best, most well-known thing about this movie is that the killer is Brenda. Brenda
the Noxzema girl
is crazy from the get-go. She's just better at hiding it than Billy and Stu. Because there are plenty of people who are initially like, fuck, these two, I feel like they could kill a motherfucker very easily. And I know we're friends and all, and I know this is a small town, but they give me the creeps. Randy constantly points to the two of them because he's right about people and very wrong about movies, which is why everyone points to his movie discoveries and observations as very good facts. But we've prosecuted this case before. Here, I think what the movie does best is shield Brenda from even the slightest degree, if you don't know it going into it, of looking like the killer.
Yeah.
But also, when she explains herself at the end, you're like, well, that's a rational explanation. Why did you axe murder that Loveline host?
Yeah.
What did that fucking have to do with anything?
Well, and not for nothing, but, and it took me a little while for this question to pop into my head too. So her, spoilers, I suppose, at this point. So her motivation is revenge.
Yeah.
Because the love of her life was killed in an automobile accident.
Yes.
Right?
That Natalie and Michelle were directly involved in.
Yep. So she was so torn up. They were going to get married, love of her life. She had to go to therapy. That didn't work and all that. But the whole movie, she's pining after Paul and mad when Natalie kisses Paul. And at the end, still seems like she wants to be with Paul.
Yeah.
Why?
There's a Paul-shaped hole in her murderous heart. I don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of impressed with her ability to multitask.
She is nothing if not a great multitasker.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's pretty incredible. The confluence of events that allow her to get away with this murder spree as long as she dies is pretty incredible. So,
yeah, I was going to say she's playing a very long game.
Yes.
Because this accident happens when they're all in high school.
Yeah.
And they're in college now. So this suggests that Brenda applied for the college that Natalie and Michelle were going to, took some time befriending them, and then decided that it was time to kill them rather than just, showing up and, I don't know, blowing up their house or something.
Right.
She just, this plan must take a good 2 to 3 years to orchestrate and set in motion.
Yes. I agree with you. There's a real long game quality. And I think it's why that end sequence of her explaining herself is the sort of lasting legacy of this film, because it's the most cohesive, satisfying component of it. And it allows an actress who, previous to this, had done a lot of different things, commercials, soap operas, TV, and whatnot. But here, she's allowed to go ham, and I would call that sequence successful. She looks crazy, and she sounds crazy, and she's allowed to be crazy. And I think that's, to me, that's the coup de grace of the entire film. Like it really does work in those moments. And it's a lot of what leads up to it, where people, actors, actresses are left adrift in the plot. Well, to just try to survive moments where the director has decided we're just going to keep filming this. And I ask, why do you make Alicia Witt clutch a pillar at one point in this movie? Like, she's trying to hold herself as if the world is spinning out of control. And you're kind of like, is it? This guy's just asking you some common fucking questions that need to be answered. You don't need to grab a pillar, but it happens. And I don't think it's Alicia Witt's problem. I think it's the script and the director's need to make sure this is filmed and put in the final edit. That just doesn't seem to help her or the movie.
Well, Alicia Witt, you know, obviously she has continued to have a career, and I didn't realize, I mean, I literally had to look it up the last time I was watching this with my wife. I was like, I wonder what she's done lately. And we had just watched Long Legs.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, oh God, well, good for her. But she has I have a hard time believing that she's ever scared in the movie. She kind of gulps air and sits back. Like, I'm not quite sure if it's just attention she's going for or what, but I'm like, she seems really uncomfortable in those scenes.
I think she's playing at a wavelength that doesn't always work for the film at whole. And I think a lot of performers in this film are in the same boat. You've got
all on a different wavelengths.
Yes, they're all playing different types of mid-90s slasher movies. And I think Jamie Blanks can lens the hell out of a sequence. Like, this movie doesn't look bad. That's not its issue in any way, shape, or form. But there are tone shifts and where it can't quite make the hurdle of the plot machinations that it's made important to the progression of the film, where I do wonder if someone had just cut this to the bone. If this had been 85 to 90 minutes rather than 100, I think it would have benefited. And maybe that's partially the time in which I have it. Let's go back to our, what movies mean to you. Because I'm a big Happy Birthday to Me fan. And I'll be the first one to admit that movie is 20 minutes too fucking long. And it doesn't matter to me, but I can be honest with you about it. And I think this movie is 15 minutes too long.
Well, we'll see if the reboot goes more bare bones.
There's a reboot? That's
they were gonna do it during COVID, I think, and I think they just officially greenlit it again that they're gonna reboot it.
Oh God!
I really hope there's a scene in which someone goes out to to get in their car and it's just covered in cheese slices.
Personally, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is a perfect example of a movie that isn't necessarily very good.
Sure.
That could be, in my opinion, great. And
but I also feel unlike a Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't believe has a core cult or beloved status. I think it worked because it was available in the marketplace and it came out a full month before I Still Know comes out, and The Faculty comes out in December.
So my guess is they're going to play it more like creepypastas, but they're going to call it urban legend because it's an existing IP.
Makes complete sense. Yeah. You can modify that. I don't think that's the main problem of the movie. I think the main problem of the movie is they cast a bunch of pretty people and really weren't sure how to make any of this scary. It's certainly following a distinct formula. We can start our character discussion with Michelle. She's in the cold open of this movie. She's got ironic taste in music and bangs that look like jack-o'-lantern teeth. People need to cool it with dissing Courtney Cox's Scream 3 bangs when this exists. Not only that, Natasha Gregson Wagner was in multiple movies with this specific haircut. It was her due, and it's never looked worse and more inappropriate than it does in this film. I was aghast. The gas cost $1.14 at the beginning of this.
I hate seeing gas station prices.
Is there gold in this gas? How is it $1.14?
I just sighed aloud when I saw it. Like, the good old days.
Who thought calling Dorff's character Michael McDonald was a good idea. I'll tell you one thing. That's what a fool believes.
I gotta say, my horrible thought was that it would be a really hard name to say if you have a stutter, which he does have.
And as much as I love Dorff, and I do, and we've talked about his other roles outside of Chucky on the show many, many times, and I feel like even an ace like him, right? And someone who's completely reliable, he is playing the dire reality of seeing something you're not supposed to see, being unable to fix a situation. What you do makes it worse. And by the time you get the words, there's someone in your back seat, that person is taken off, long gone.
I think this is actually, I think, one of the best scenes in the movie for me.
Okay.
I think because I think that his, I do have a little bit of a stammer when I am agitated about something.
Sure.
So I think that he has a good and believable mix of being scared and also, being annoyed that she's not listening to him.
Right. Because I'm trying to save your life.
And frustrated that it's not getting out.
Yeah.
So like when he just like, there's someone in your car. It's just like, he's like, fuck,
Yes.
Like, I think it's very believable and adds a lot of realistic tension.
Yes.
She's already being like bitchy and dismissive of him and all.
She's not observant of anything.
The fact that he could see through a rainy window that someone was in the back seat and she couldn't figure that out in the car.
This movie's relationship to windows is singular. Okay. We will get into it. It just has a very odd idea of what windows do and how they operate. But I don't believe she's set up well. We later learned that she's involved in at least one vehicular manslaughter. And she has zero indication that has modified her driving behavior at all. And the more you learn about her, the more you hate her in this sequence. Not the actress, the character. But as much as Dorff's character grounds that sequence, once she takes off again, she doesn't realize someone's in the back seat and she's ultimately decapitated. And my question to you both is how there's not enough room in a 90s Ford Bronco to swing an axe, decapitate a petite woman, and then have that axe crash through the driver's side window to avoid showing a decapitated head for something.
Yeah, I definitely Mandela affected that head flying out the window. And I was like, wait, I guess it rolled forward?
I don't, how does Brenda have enough momentum to swing that axe and decapitate somebody? There is simply not enough available space to have that happen and have the axe fly out the window, which is a different set of momentum factors. I don't come to urban legend for reality, but I'd like some.
Well, clearly Brenda has been juicing or working out in the campus gym because she is able to strangle an adult man. Mm-hmm. Essentially garrote him and
without showing signs of strangling another person in the cast.
And then strangles a woman about her same size with her bare hands.
Yes.
Well, she's a swimmer, so
right. But she's got my child's in danger mom strength going on.
She's sort of like, because again, it's supposed to be a surprise. Oh my God, it's a girl.
Yes.
That she is, now again, I don't want to be sexist or anything, but you are definitely meant to think that this is a man at first.
Right. Yes. But she does that thing that happens in a whole host of movies that we've covered on the show, because we get a genuine corpse chorus at the end of this thing. And how is she hauling these dead bodies around town without being noticed?
How is she hiding all that hair under that hood?
I think it's the only thing that could contain it. She's the only person on record on this show to have hair volume approaching Nightmare on Elm Street's Nancy. That's crazy how much hair volume
she takes the hood off and you can almost hear a visible poof.
As it cannot be contained any much longer. It turns out that Michelle, along with the rest of the cast, are attending Pendleton University, home of the Fighting Hair Choices. Meet Sasha. She has a sex call-in show in college, and by gum, this was a viable career path once upon a time.
I mean, yeah.
Speaking of
lines,
yeah, this exists. Like this, there was a what are you going to do with this? She had an answer to that. Speaking of harsh realities, no DJs walk around while broadcasting. I'm just going to come right out and say this. I don't have limited radio experience, but I can tell you, you don't broadcast out of both a headset mic and one of the 4 mics in the broadcast studio. That's just an invitation for feedback. You just sit in front of a fucking microphone and talk like we're doing right now.
So this wasn't a part of my college career. I'd be curious to hear from other people, but did anyone go to a college where there was any campus radio program that was so popular that they played it during parties?
No, that is
where people
science
would
fiction.
Stop and listen.
If you believe in that, you believe in like jetpacks are also involved in this film, which they might as well be considering how Brenda is able to transport bodies. But considering her broadcast, for the record, swallowing semen does not have the same it does have some STI risks, but is not typical when it comes to HIV exposure, which is generally what we're talking about when it comes to safe sex, even in 1998. So if you're going to do a sex show, maybe, I don't know, read a pamphlet. Like Loveline at least had a doctor on the call. Anyways.
But she consumes every issue of Cosmo.
True. And what better? And you would think, well, that's not really a learning tome. And yet there, at one point, Teen Vogue was one of our best sources of journalism. So make of that what you will. Everyone meet Natalie. She's a ginger and she's also a fall, and she perhaps looks the best in brown lipstick I've ever seen anyone look. Good for her. I'm afraid we have stumbled into one of our least favorite slasher tropes with this friend group, Gina. Why the fuck do these people hang out with one another?
Yeah, these are the only people on campus.
Yeah.
They were assigned to hang out with each other as punishment for something, perhaps a frat prank in the semester beforehand. Mm-hmm. But they cannot hide the distaste they have for each other.
They don't like one another. The one person they may be horny for doesn't pay attention to them at all. Meanwhile, you have Parker, who is our Billy / Stu / also Randy, all wrapped up in one Quentin Tarantino gesturing package.
With Eminem's hairstyle.
Well, no. That is not Parker. Oh. That is Damon.
Damon, right.
That is a person who is using a last name as a first name, as if this is Sleepaway Camp 2, and it is not. But the movie persists. This is also a scene in which we meet Brenda and her voluminous hair. Parker, obviously, because he has so many roles in this that we don't care for, gives us the backstory. The legend of the massacre of Stanley Hall Dormitory. An AbPsych major murders multiple co-eds who answer their door. Those who don't get to live. According to Parker, the university was able to cover this up because multiple murder victims is something you can just sweep under the carpet, especially in a frat house that celebrates that murder spree with a party every single year.
And a campus that only has 3,500 students.
Right. I love the whole, yes, the college was able to cover up this mass murder.
How? Replacing these college students with like a clones? How did they fucking cover it up?
And also this aspect of this story, it also plays into Brenda's extremely long plan.
Right.
Like, did she pick this college because Michelle and Natalie were going to go there? Or did she pick this college because she knew that this mass murder happened there and would be able to tie that into her plan somehow?
I don't know, but we need to get her on Cold Fusion post-stat because she has cracked so many fucking nuts to be able to accomplish these many, many tasks all at the same time. She is the finest amongst us. She may be the smartest killer we've ever covered on the show.
Yeah, I mean, and presumably because I don't believe they all went to high school together. So somehow she took a wild guess as to what college Natalie and Michelle were going to go to.
Or maybe it was covered in the court documents. They were already accepted.
Sure.
Pendleton.
I don't know. They gave their statement as to why they can't go to jail.
I cannot go to jail.
I'm already going to Pendleton on a free ride. Please go easy on me,
I must
Judge.
attend this Ivy League college.
Oh, and the judge was involved in the initial cover-up, so he had to go along with it.
Sure. Sure.
I can apologize for any horror movie.
I sort of feel like this script went through a number of rewrites.
No, I believe it didn't go through enough rewrites. I think this movie is 3 rewrites away from being pretty damn good. But they're like, we're losing money every day we don't go into production because this makes 75 mil and Scream's making 100 and I know is making 146. So they're like, the longer we wait, the more competition we have. Just make. People didn't used to be precious about making slasher movies. They just made them. And this is in the grand tradition of make one of those, please.
It's like, so you want this to make sense?
No.
Who gives a shit?
They're not in the making sense business. And really, we confront this with every movie we talk about. And when it doesn't matter is when the movie's so entertaining that you just don't care. And this isn't. Anyways.
I think it almost makes it. It almost gets
if
there.
you don't think about it, if you just let it pass over, if maybe you fall asleep on the couch during a rainy afternoon on Sunday watching this movie, and it's great. That totally makes sense. And even some of the choices they make within it are like something must have been in the water. Because side note, we have covered a couple of films that use Richard Speck's 1966 killing spree of 9 nursing students in Chicago as inspiration. One we just covered on Patreon as of this recording, which is 1996's far superior The Frighteners. And the other one is the far more involved with dildos, 10 to Midnight. A movie which has Charles Bronson shove a masturbation machine in our killer's face and go, what do you use this for? Jerking off. And I will never.
God, what a great movie. What a great movie.
It's a perfect, it might not be great. It might not be good, but it is absolutely great in the moments that it is great. It is reprehensible, but also name another movie in which Bronson shoves a handheld masturbation machine in someone's face and asks, what do you use this for? I doubt the answer is beating eggs before I make scrambled in the morning.
But that also lends itself to this movie, right? Like, at least for me, the best parts where you can kind of forget about everything else are the actual kills. Like, sure. Those scenes themselves are great. They do cover creepy. Well, some are urban legends. Some of them, they just killed somebody and then decided to say that that's an urban legend.
I think some of the mousetraps work. Yeah. I do believe that. And then sometimes it's trying to do something I like very poorly, but we'll get to that. There's also a character who's a journalism student named Paul who refutes the story as an urban legend. I don't know who plays Paul, and I'm unwilling to find out. Later, Natalie and Brenda play Bloody Mary outside the front door of the abandoned Stanley Hall, which, again, we've talked about on Patreon, is evoked in a form of divination by mirror in Candyman. And in here, it doesn't make any sense because they're staring at a fucking door and not a mirror. Jesus Christ. Why? I don't expect a mirror to be there, but why evoke Bloody Mary if you're not going to fucking do anything with it?
I assume maybe they thought the door knocker was going to change into it like Jacob Marley. I don't know.
Gina, you found the one good idea here, and I think you really should have been part of the writer's room. This is also the sequence in which we meet Damon, a person who has using a last name as a first name. He's played by Joshua Jackson with an M&M dye job that is ill-suited to his coloring.
Yeah, he looks like he's about 14 here. I never realized until later that that Joshua Jackson long bottomed. Like he was like, just kind of this regular looking dude when he was, young and in Dawson's Creek and all. And then he got a lot better looking once he hit his 40s.
I know he's legit hot right now.
And here he's just like a dweeb.
He is a dork-o-manic. And somehow that face has morphed into, if you read his dating and marriage history, you would go, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is he working with? And part of it is his face looks all sorts of good right now.
Fringe was huge. I think Fringe brought him back to a lot of us.
And he just, in his 40s, has the kind of face that you get a little weather on it, and all of a sudden, he starts to look real fucking good. And, I don't know that he's blossomed into the world's greatest actor, but I also think he seems to know his lane, and it's working for him. Meanwhile, Natalie goes into she walks into her amazingly goth dorm entryway and literally runs into a janitor who is there simply to be a red herring or give backstory. And then she walks in on her amazingly goth roommate, Tosh, who is loudly fucking. I just
not subtly by any means. Didn't put up a curtain. Covered everything else in black. No black curtains.
Didn't put a necktie around the
door handle. For Christ's sakes, I didn't even attend a formal college, and I know you put a fucking sock on the door. For Christ's sakes, put a cobweb on there if you're so fucking goth. I don't care, but don't blame her for walking in on you loudly fucking. When who would learn that lesson? But weirdly enough, Natalie does over the course of this movie. What am I talking about? Anyways, I don't think I could sleep with over-ear Walkman style headphones, as I'm afraid I would just have to listen to their loud goth sex, probably for hours.
I think I'd probably leave the room. I mean, I'm impressed that she can just lay down and fall asleep in the first place.
She's like, oops, sorry, and then just walks right over and just lays down.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm just gonna go sleep in the lounge or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Lilith Fair lineup is waiting, and the headphones go on. In another scene, we meet Professor William Wexler, played by Robert Englund, doing his best Vincent Price in a corduroy sports coat, and his glasses always remain halfway down his nose. They are never directly where they should be. He's only ever reading downwards. Professor Wexler is serving up what is supposed to be our main rule or motivation for this slasher flick. Urban legends are dire warnings that if unheeded will lead to a person's death. And then the movie goes out of its way to only do that once. So lesson learned. When the movie reverses back to that glorious lecture hall, there are more students in attendance of that lecture than there are people currently lined up for rare Labubus.
That's what I'm talking about. This is this is the college you go to if you major in urban legend.
Right. This is the only you are mandatory supposed to be in this class.
You go to UCLA for film. You go to Johns Hopkins if you want to major in medicine. You go to Pendleton University, you major in urban legend.
That would make sense for everyone, how much everyone knows about urban legends.
I mean,
they are all experts.
They are.
He knows all of their names somehow. I don't think one teacher in 4.5 years of college ever knew my name.
And he knows everyone's name in that entire thing. And it looks like WrestleMania is going to be happening right after Clay's. I know that one of the goals of Parker's character is to make him insufferable, but holy shit, mission accomplished banner. Also, I had to note at this point during this sequence, the music here is orchestrated and composed by Christopher Young, who did a ton of great scores over the years, but should be sued by Scream's Marco Beltrami for blatant motherfucking theft. It is like every theme move from Scream soundtrack has been reproduced with little to no alteration whatsoever.
I'm glad you brought up the music, because one thing I've been enjoying doing when we go through this run of late 90s slashers is taking a peep at the soundtrack. As
did I, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And everything you need to know about the fact that this movie was made in 1998 is that among one of the featured songs in the soundtrack, Zoot Suit Riot, baby.
That's right. In addition to that, we have tracks by Bonnie Tyler, Crystal Method, Stabbing Westward, Rob Zombie, Juliana Hatfield, Monster Magnet, Ohio Players, and of course, Paula Cole for a brief meta joke. But in post our, the Rage Carry 2 soundtrack discovery, I'm always looking for that one song and band I've never heard of before. And that came in the form of Ireland's Junkster.
I like the way you say that. You've got that morning Zoo DJ. We bring you the best hits like Junkster.
But I'm hoping for a run of them. And mainly I get like, well, these people were on the radio or were legacy, soundtrack choices. Whereas the Rage Carry 2, just to remind our audience, included tracks by Raw, Ivy, Fear Factory, Paradise Lost, 10 Watt Mary, 5 Times Down, 16 Volt, Kate Schrock, Sack, LAX, Trailer Park Pam, and Buddha Monk.
Did you record radio drops for this movie or something?
No. It's just a talent I have that goes unused in my
but if you
money-making ventures.
How to monetize that, your goal.
I've been trying, but I'm afraid that AI large language models are going to take that away from me. But yes, I think we need to have a contest, or where is there a better lineup of the fucking who? People on a soundtrack than the Rage Carry 2.
That's not to be confused with The Who.
Right. No.
This is the fucking Who.
Not the fucking Who. It's the Who is in italics.
with an interrobang.
Who shot where? The what now? What is that man's name? So Paul's front page story in the college newspaper gets Dean Adams and University Security Officer Reese up in arms, not for nothing, but a student killed in a car driving away from school does not mean there is, quote unquote, a lunatic on campus. But fuck Paul forever. What do
Thank you. That was driving me nuts.
It's stupid.
I was like, why does he say there's a killer on campus?
Like someone was killed driving away from campus.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything?
I don't know, but Dean Adams is the one time in this movie right about something, so give it up for him. Speaking of stealing from Scream, our fearsome fivesome, then in that weird Friends central perk area within the campus, are trying to piece together what they knew about Michelle, and the answer is obfuscated. But when you watch that sequence, just recall for a second how much tension occurs in that outdoor fountain scene from Scream between Sid, Billy, Stu, Tatum, and Randy. And watch here as there's absolutely none of that.
No.
Why? The reason we have to believe that any of these characters are in danger is because the camera is constantly pointed in their direction. Whereas in Scream, all those characters have some personal connections to one of the dead people, Casey, and others are suspicious, and the others are asking questions. Were you involved? Where were you last night? Whereas urban legend uses this as a opportunity to make a joke about giving head. Told to you by Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, almost as awkward as that version in High Tension. Not quite, though.
Not quite. We only learned that Natalie's connection to Michelle after that scene, as she tells it to Damon in the middle of nowhere when he essentially tries to date rape her. It's really weird. Or gaslight her. It's definitely a "have you considered my penis prime" sequence.
Oh yeah. It's the most penisy of "have you considered my penis" scenes.
It's
because
wild.
I mean, at least with in most other versions of "have you considered my penis," at least it is usually the girl's boyfriend. Where here he's just some dude.
It's a guy that they know. Anywho, Damon goes outside to take a leak. He's hung from a noose. The rope is attached to the back of his car. When the killer attacks Natalie, she attempts to drive away, which ends up hanging Damon from a very high tree. So the killer...
Again, the logistics of making this work.
Yeah.
And predicting that they were going to go to this exact place,
right?
Park under this exact tree,
right?
Just yeah, you're right that the only way that this movie works is if you do not think about any of it for not even like 5 seconds, because it's just going to completely fall apart.
It's full of pretty pictures, and that's sometimes enough
because it requires Brenda to have the kind of supernatural forethought. Like we joke about how Jason always knows your fuck style, and like both he and Michael Myers can always is always 10 steps ahead of everybody else. He's always in the exact right place at the exact right time. But like Brenda's just a person, and somehow she's always able to predict the exact time that someone's going to enter a room, that a car is going to pull up, that a conversation is going to end. Mm-hmm. When you have this scene between the dean and Reese, the security lady, in the parking garage, Reese has walked away about 10 seconds after Brenda comes out with this knife and Achilles heels the dean, who apparently in this 10 seconds, Reese has gotten far enough away that the sounds of the dean struggling for his life can no longer be heard in a parking garage,
where everything fucking echoes,
which has the acoustics of a concert hall.
So Damon ends up. She backs up into the tree, which causes Damon to fall. And he defenestrates himself through the windshield. And then Natalie runs back to campus, hauls Reese out. But of course, by the time they're back out there, the body and the car are gone. Which, fine, whatever.
It's way easier to clean up than a dead body and a trunk full of crabs.
At least there's a hello. Again, if a movie is entertaining enough, you will let a lot of that shit slide.
Yeah.
And whereas I think this one doesn't quite, it's not in the pits of hell, but it is not enough to let a lot of this shit slide. For example, Natalie then goes to the library to research stuff she's learning about in class. And we're so close, Gina, to a microfiche scene. And yet the movie resists this temptation. We're using fucking books like a bunch of losers.
But I still adore the books that I will never be able to see that have the most amazing, like the library scene in 7. Mm-hmm. These books that have the most beautiful artwork depictions. That's all I want to see at a library, and all I ever see are words. Give me some pictures to go along with it. Very specific diagrams that are going to play out in real life.
We're saving those illustrations for the internet to allow AI to do it. A genuine question I have for the both of you is, does Natalie ever brush her fucking teeth before going to bed? We never see this. It's not that I have to, but she's always walking in from other activities, seeing her roommate fucking, and like, time for Betty bye, and brush your teeth.
Well, maybe it's normally a part of her routine, and in that moment, you're like, you know what? I can just brush them in the morning.
That's the only college affiliated thing with this that I actually believe. Speaking of, her roommate Tosh is both strangled, but then appears to have her wrist slit, and she dies from one of those causes. With the amount of effort that it allows the killer to paint the words, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?" on the wall, not just a bare wall next to the bed. No, she would need, I don't know, those things that you wear to paint ceilings on. She would need a step ladder at the very least. Are you telling me that she's basketball leaping for every single fucking letter on that wall?
It makes me think of that scene in Scary Movie when the ghost face has like a mop and bucket and he's cleaning up the scene behind everybody. And like, oh God, there they are. Like, gets all scared. Like, yeah, I like thinking about the in-between scenes. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. Again, don't think, because this movie is not for thinkers, baby.
Now, I have something, this might be out there, but I was thinking of a way to make this movie almost instantly better, in my mind at least. Get rid of Natalie's character, or combine Natalie and Tosh's character. Like, Tosh is dark and morose, and she's having to take lithium to control like her manic episodes and everything else. Maybe that could also partially be a byproduct of being involved in killing someone.
Sure.
And then there could actually be depth to the character instead of, I was a cheerleader who was in a car accident.
Yeah. No, instead we have to just pile things on poor Alicia Witt. For example, after, she discovers the body of her roommate, there's a sequence that starts with paramedics wheeling the dead body through the Gothic hallway, right? And then there's a whole conversation scene. And then the body's wheeled back the other direction. Hey, did they reach a dead end? Was it a loop? What? There's an entrance and an exit.
We hit the cul-de-sac.
It's a cul-de-sac that the body has to go through so she can see it twice.
Maybe they just wanted to hear more brutally callous comments from her classmates.
Yeah,
this make movie, sure to check her pulse. She's looked like that for years.
I think that's a human fucking being.
Yeah, they really push the young people. They're so blasé about death.
Well, this movie wants to have that scene that's so good in Scream, which the cheerleader is just running everyone, all the casts that we've seen so far, like Billy's a fuck up and I don't trust this person, and Sydney, what is she trying to do? And that scene is so fucking, we never see those characters again. No. It's so well rendered and actualized that this movie's like, just give me one of those. And this is what it came up with. And it does not work to the point in which Alicia Witt after this is quizzed, like, why do you know Michelle? What happened? What was the predecessor to this? What do you know? And she just hugs a pillar in the middle of this quad. And you're like, I get it. You're trying to hold on for dear life because this movie is spinning out of control.
Very soap opera.
Very. And she came out of soap operas. So it's understandable, but it's also like someone needs to be in control here. And I think, this has the feeling of a first movie, right? And hey, I like Friday the 13th just fine. I would say it has a lot of the same fucking problems, but at least Friday the 13th gives me a hatchet to the face,
I've talked about this before with horror movies, and there's something about horror especially the 70s and the 80s. There's an earnestness to the performances where maybe they're not good actors and actresses. Maybe they're not, but they're trying. Like, they're not kind of ham-handed going through the motions a lot. Like, maybe the attempt they make totally falls flat, like you're watching Leprechaun or something.
Yeah.
But they're trying. Like there is some sense, whether the studio cared or not, it felt like the actors did. But sometimes something in the 90s, it just kind of seemed like there's a lot of money going around and we're taking a paycheck. And it lacks it sometimes.
I think there's a couple of factors. One is Scream is meta. Yeah. And so there's some of that sort of Marvel movie situation where instead of, oh my God, that person can fly, the response is, you fly now? And there's a difference between those two things. Like, it can only work for so long, and it can only work under certain circumstances. And secondly, all these people are coming out of TV and commercials where this is like their summer break. And so they're like, I want to get on movie screens, and here's a way to do it. And it's the difference between being cast in the thing that works and being cast in the thing that doesn't so much. So Natalie reveals that she and Michelle were involved in a deadly vehicle mishap that resulted in the death of a teen boy. This will come into focus a little bit later on. And as I said before, I think the only thing that really works well here is the misdirect from Brenda. But at 100 minutes, this is just 20 minutes too long and 3 rewrites too short. The movie treats journalism in the same way that Friday the 13th franchise treats first responders. These people suck. It's its prevailing mantra.
Well, he almost won a student Pulitzer.
Almost. And by almost, he submitted. My question at a certain point, because Natalie is involved with multiple car problems, right? Her origin story involves a car. She backs one into a tree, and then she's involved in more car problems. And is Natalie unbreakable, but only in car wrecks? This will come back into play because I believe there's one more unbreakable character in this film. I'd forgotten that Natalie finds a corpse chorus at the end of this. But fuck, Brenda really has an incredible strength regimen, how she's able to do this. At one point, Paul, Brenda, and Natalie escape the campus, and they're driving in Paul's car, which also, it's not a Ford Bronco, but it's something Ford Bronco-like. And Natalie's like, what the fuck smells in this car? And they can't figure it out. And they're like, we need to find some sort of information or find a phone. And they pull off to the same gas station that Michelle went to earlier in the movie. And when Paul's inside, they decide to investigate the trunk. They don't open the trunk. The trunk is, the window behind it is completely open. And you're like, huh. I mean, that happens, right? Especially if you're trying to hide a dead body. But up until this point, it has been raining cats and fucking dogs. So they're just driving around with a dead body and a window open. I can believe one thing. I can't believe all the fucking things. At some point in here, Parker dies after. Do they legitimately microwave his dog? Because that's a lot.
I mean, I feel like it's implied that, yeah.
For the record, John seems to have disappeared. He's back.
Thank God. It's still here.
You're fine. You didn't miss anything. I'm recounting plot, and who fucking cares?
You didn't miss anything, just the plot. And you know what? You're right. You're not being snarky or anything. You're not missing anything by not being here to.
But the movie doesn't care that Parker dies by Pop Rocks and Drano, because that's not the fucking urban legend, is it? It doesn't, and also it doesn't make his stomach explode. Drano would kill you regardless of the Pop Rocks. This is what I'm talking about. Why introduce this element if you're not actually going to follow through on any of this? And then the movie has the temerity to have a chase sequence. The thing I have talked at length over the course of the show as being the thing all slasher movies should have. You should have chase sequences that are fun and exciting. And this movie is unable to accomplish that. I regret my suggestion that movies needed this if this is what you're going to do with it. I mean, she's in those giant chunky heels and she jumps from one section of the staircase to the other, and she's kind of like, I don't know, I'm a little limpy. That's about all that happens. And then she goes to a dead-end corner cul-de-sac and gets murdered because she's stupid. And the movie's stupid. And I don't like it when it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of sums up what it feels like, especially after multiple viewings, is it's a series of kills and some stuff happens in between.
Yeah. And then finally, they have this big chase sequence and Natalie finally makes it back. And of course, what is there but the abandoned dormitory, and there's one light on and someone's screaming for help. And Natalie shows her final girl resolve and doing something that isn't thinking about herself, but trying to help somebody else. And it turns out it's all a ruse, as Brenda has lured her there to bop her on the head and take her kidney. And here's where as I mentioned before, we don't have to go into it again because we pretty much covered it. But this is the Bravara sequence. I like that Brenda has a visual aid in the explanation for why she's a murderer.
Oh, it's the most amazing slideshow you've ever seen.
I mean, people have been chasing this slideshow with every deck they've ever put together ever since.
Without a doubt. I am curious when, maybe this is just me, there's certain movies where they clearly decided to use the actor as the dead body. Like in this case, Damon hanging there. Like that's Joshua Jackson. That's not a dummy. They're not trying to hide it, whatever. But to me, it always feels a little weird because I know he's not dead. Like obviously he's an actor. Like I keep expecting his eyes to open. Like it kind of throws me off.
Some people can do it well and some people can't. There's also the problem with breathing corpses.
Yeah.
And I can't say I was looking too hard because at this point, I kind of wanted the movie to end. But in terms of like a movie we've just covered with Silent Rage with activist Ron Silver, he's doing everything he can to hang from a hook, look dead. Mm-hmm. But the camera is on him for so fucking long. His poor lungs need to expand. So yeah, he breathes a little, but it's not. I don't think that's the problem here. I think the problem is that none of these characters sustain enough good visual damage. Everyone's too afraid of the MPAA right now. We have to wait for the millennial nasties to bring gore back to horror movies. And so this kind of comes off as a bunch of pale people. We got a graduation day all over again, Gina.
It's a little, it's frustratingly restrained.
I thought the other possibilities, because Damon's the biggest prankster on campus. And one time he convinced a girl he was a Hanson brother to have sex with her because that's what pranks are. So I thought it was a prank.
Huh. Well, you might be right. You might be wrong. Who's to say? Now, one of our heroes, who's the security officer for this, Officer Reese, drives up to the abandoned dorm. And the thing that really sort of bumped for me is that she is driving around with a loose 9mm just hanging out. It's not on the dash. It's on the center console, just hanging out for reasons I can't quite understand.
Well, it's Chekhov's gun in the third act.
But I mean, we've never seen her hold that particular gun. Actually, the gun she uses later is the gun that she was using to watch blaxploitation movies.
But this one's shiny.
Anyways, gets taken away from her. There's a lot of talk. She ends up trying to save the day, gets shot, but ends up using a secondary gun she had in her ankle holster to shoot Brenda. Hold on to this thought, because later they, for whatever reason, Natalie and Paul decide to drive away from her instead of getting her into the car. They drive to get help, and Brenda's still in the back seat. And then she goes out the front windshield when they hit the side of a bridge and flies into a river. That is the second fall she's taken. She took one prom night style fall out of the third story window. Now she falls into a river. My question to you, is Brenda unbreakable, but only from falls?
Well, she was shot twice. She was shot once in the arm and once in the stomach that knocked her out the window.
Yeah. It makes even less sense. But apparently, like Monty Python said, she feels better. And then she ends up arriving in a different college, but with the same friend central perk with, wow, this collection of where did they get any of these people? Wow.
So is she just, I mean, like is her bloodlust not sated? Is she just going to continue this killing spree?
She's alive for a reason. She's found her purpose.
Just killing?
Just killing. I would say she's found her porpoise, considering the way she dragged herself out of a river.
And there was a possible studio note of, can we make this a sequel?
Right. And she's wearing the bluebird ribbon on her neck, which goes unmentioned, but also is kind of like a urban legend reference point. I don't know. Who cares? Who could possibly fucking care? Over the course of talking about this movie, I've gone from it's fine to maybe war crime. I'm not sure.
Going to end up in The Hague before you know it.
Say, it's fine to fuck you.
Again, easier watch than it is to talk about. Not that I didn't have fun talking about. But of course, there's other ways to have fun, like choosing your own death venture. And that's where we decide of the deaths portrayed in this film. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? Up forbid, we have decapitated in moving car by axe, hung by noose defenestrated through car windshield, strangled to death while roommates listens to Walkman. Also, your wrists are cut. Which way did she die? Who can possibly say? Killed in car accident. Achilles tendon slashed, run over by not operational car, spiked by several tire damage spikes. Death by pop rocks and Drano. Hacked in the face with an axe. Stabbed multiple times and placed in the back of an open trunk in a fucking rainstorm. Wait a second. That's not true. That's the Dean. It's the same thing. Also, killed in a car wreck, but not. He shot a couple times. He fought, but Brenda doesn't die. So none of her ways of dying are actual dying. So that's out. So there we go, everybody. Going through the windshield of a car can only happen one way, from the outside in, not the inside out. John, as our guest, I turn to you to go first.
I mean, maybe it's a chicken shit way out, but I want to die the way Michelle did. Just one swing of an axe takes my head off. Sure. Oh, come on. Of all those choices.
Absolutely true. I don't think, well, let's see if there's a better way to go. Gina, what say you?
I don't know. I don't like the idea of getting my Achilles tendon cut because ick. Mm-hmm. I do think that death ultimately is pretty ridiculous. He just sort of lays there while they politely waits for the car to roll him over and push him onto the tire spike. I think I do find that kind of amusing, so I think I might take that one.
We do love politely waiting there. It's practically
like he can crawl. He can crawl away. He is crawling.
Yeah, and
then all of a sudden he sees that car coming. He's like, well. I could lays flat on his back, waits for death to happen.
I could roll left or right. I choose neither. I find that undignified.
That is the Prometheus school of running.
Yeah,
I've heard that if you flatten yourself with a train is about to run you over, you'll survive. Maybe that'll work with a car. No.
I estimated poorly. Yeah, I'm definitely not taking pop rocks and Drano. That sounds terrible. And getting hacked in the face with an axe, especially when you don't see it, sounds terrible.
Can I blow up in the microwave? Does that count?
It counts if that is in fact what happens to that dog. We don't know if that's a real thing or
I just assume it was so full of alcohol at that point it was going to blow up at some point in that night.
That's right. Just looking for a place to know. I choose decapitated a moving car by X, because before you know it, you're gone. The last thing that goes through your head is, wait, there was enough room to swing an axe at me?
Oh, that's what that guy was saying.
Or, that's how you do. Oh, damn it.
Why didn't I listen to Brad Dourif? Which is what we all should be doing.
Honestly.
Michael McDonald, really.
John?
We should be listening to Michael McDonald.
We should all be listening to Michael McDonald. But, you keep forgetting you're not in love anymore. John, before we say goodbye, why don't you tell everybody what you do and where they can find you doing?
Sure. You can find me every week, a couple times a week on Creepy, our horror anthology podcast, where we read creepypastas and urban legends from around the world. Been doing it for about 8 years. There's about 1,000 episodes in the back catalog. Right now I'm working on gearing up towards October for our 31 Days of Horror annual event. And I also host the SCP archives on Bloody FM. Excellent.
People should absolutely check it out. I think you are one of the best people to do it, quite honestly. I find in a show format that does not lend itself to me, I've always found your show the best. I really feel like there's a lot of purpose, and the way you accomplish things are very thoughtful and work towards the audio medium, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for listening.
My pleasure. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture on my newsletter, ginawatchesthings.ghost.io. And you can find me on social media some of the time on Blue Sky or Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Josh Hollis does all of our artwork. Go to joshhollis.com for such items. Go to RevengeBodyMemphis at Bandcamp.com to find this tune and all of the remixes of it. Find us on your socials. Join us on Patreon for bonus episodes. Buy a t-shirt. Talk back to us on Spotify or YouTube. Subscribe to us there too. Lots of fun places to find us on social media, with the exception of Twitter. Fuck that place. Anyways, this just about does it. But don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself and for Gina and John. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
When it comes to home insurance, Geico works for you. And since I'm the Geico Gecko, I'm here working for you too.
Hey, Gecko, can you record my voicemail greeting?
No problemo. You've reached the amazing Rita. She's probably busy right now teaching music theory to neighbourhood birds, or telling a total stranger how they can bundle home and car insurance with Geico to get the discounts they deserve. But rest assured, she'll get back to you once she's done brightening her little corner of the world. Did that sound all right?
Nailed it. No notes.
Let Geico work for you. Get more with Geico.